Something tells me that treated with love and kindness.
Gee, that's really kind of too bad, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
We're on camera, so be discreet.
Which file would you like first?
Whichever one is nearest your thumb.
Okay, your gun has to leave the building.
Actually, no, it doesn't. According to 624.714, no official action under color of authority.
You can't bring this into the building.
Yes,
There's a
sir.
sign that says corridor, you can't bring in the building. Do you understand that?
I understand there's a sign there, but the sign's not binding.
I need
624.714.
You want me to violate your permit?
Where do
Or
I,
you just want me to keep
get
this,
my permit to
or
purchase?
ask you to put it in your car someplace? You can't have the gun in the building. Period. If you want to make a point, I can arrest you. If
I
not,
will not
give it
resist
back.
arrest, sir. I will
Okay.
not resist arrest.
Just take it back to your car and put it away, okay? That's all I want you to do, but you cannot have it in this building.
That simply is not the case, sir.
Well, that's according to the judge it is. You can't have a gun in this building, okay? You can't. You can argue it with the judge. I don't want to argue it with you.
I'm not going to argue with you.
Okay, so will you take this back to your car, please?
You said the magic word.
Thank you. Please do not load it until you get back outside of the building.
You said the magic word again. Absolutely.
Great, thank you. And then which file would you like, sir?
Whichever one is handiest for you, nearest your thumb. Like I said, I don't care.
Okay, well, I have Sosnowski, I have
Sosnowski would be just fine.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Please do not come back in the building with that gun, or any other gun, okay?
You said please.
Okay, Mark, you know, that was quite a little video there. Give us a little idea of what took place.
This is one of the strangest cases I've ever seen, James. This past week on Armed American Radio, I interviewed a gentleman by the name of Andrew Rothman. When this story was brought to my attention, I got a ton of email from listeners. Armed American Radio airs on over a dozen stations in Minnesota, so it picked up. We've got a lot of listeners and fans up there, and I got a lot of email, consequently, from the area asking me to please talk about this story. So I did some digging into this, and I read about it. It was very disturbing and a very strange story. I called Joel Rosenberg, the individual that you saw being disarmed by the officer on the video, and of course, under advice of his attorney, he has been advised to zip it. Consequently, I got a call back from his spokesperson, Andrew Rothman, who said, Joel can't come on the show, but I can. So we had him on last week to talk about it. What you saw, and the way this starts out, it turns out that the individual in the tape, Joel Rosenberg, who many viewers may recognize as a fairly successful science fiction writer, writer of about 4 or 5 science fiction novels, his wife was arrested on a Minneapolis street on a trumped-up charge. She was disciplining her child when a passerby called police and didn't like the way she was disciplining her child. That's the way we're going here in society. Spank your kid, face a charge. She was arrested by the Minneapolis State Police for disciplining her kid. It was later, the trumped-up charge was later dropped, and Joel Rosenberg decided to look into it a little bit further by filing a Freedom of Information Act request on the Minneapolis Police Department so that he could find out a little bit more about what they were doing and why she was charged to begin with. And of course, that's where he set the video camera up. He went in to pick up the documents, and the rest you saw on the tape.
Okay, so he was in a police station?
He was in a police station, that's correct.
Okay, so he goes into the police station. He's armed when he goes in. Now, the officer referred to some kind of a sign on the door, maybe?
Right. And what it is, Minneapolis or Minnesota section 624714, and you heard Joel reference it when the officer Palmer asked him to leave, told him he couldn't come in armed. Joel said that's not actually true. According to 624714, I can be armed. Now, that statute in Minnesota says that you can, in fact, be armed in a courthouse complex if you notify the sheriff or, in this particular case, the Commission of Public Safety officer, which Joel Rosenberg has done. In fact, he's done it for years. He's made the request and notified them that he was going to be armed in the court complexes. He is allowed under Minnesota state law to carry there because he has notified the proper people. You also heard the Officer Palmer say, "I'll violate your permit." Officer Palmer does not have any authority to violate his permit. Only a judge can violate his permit. So this very strange case. Now what happened was, after Joel was disarmed, politely, you heard him say in the tape, you said the magic word, was when Officer Palmer said please a couple of times. Joel left the courthouse. The tape continues for about 11 minutes. He went across, or he left the police department. He went across the street to the courthouse complex and filed charges of assault against Officer Palmer. So there's some interesting stuff in this video. If you go back and you watch it, and it's on YouTube, you'll hear the officer say, "I'll arrest you." Well, instantly you see Joel Rosenberg take his hat off, set it down, and you hear him, if you listen carefully, you hear him say, "I will not resist arrest. I will not resist arrest." So you have to ask yourself, did he go in there expecting to be arrested? So it's a fascinating thing, but he was legal the whole time.
Yeah. Unfortunately, all these clips, no matter what clip I show, and this is a good example of it, we never really know what took place before or what took place after. And I'm kind of, do you think that he went in there to actually start a confrontation over the weapon?
I don't know. He's gone in there armed before. I know that for a fact. I'm speaking to folks up there. It's not something that he hasn't done. He's notified them before. He took the video camera in for a reason. I mean, I don't walk around with my video camera to set up on a table prior to this. But he has every right to do that. He did nothing wrong under Minnesota state law. Nothing. He had the right to videotape it. Minnesota state law says as long as one party is aware of the recording, then it is legal, and it doesn't stipulate which party. So Joel did absolutely nothing wrong. Here's the interesting part again. He was charged with 2 crimes. One being contempt of court, a misdemeanor, unbelievable, but a month after the video that you saw was taped, he was charged with a felony for carrying a weapon in a courthouse complex. And here's where this gets interesting. This police department is not a courthouse complex. The courthouse complex is across the street. He was not in a courthouse. He was in a police department building. And if it was a felony, why was he not charged on the spot? A month later? There's shenanigans going on here. In addition to that, the judge, now here's a man who has never been charged with a crime, never been convicted of a crime. He's a homeowner, business owner, stand-up citizen. He's written a book on carrying a concealed weapon and how to get your permit in Minnesota. He's an author of a number of fantasy novels, never been in any trouble whatsoever. He's given a $100,000 bond in Minnesota. $100,000 bond, higher than people who are on murder charges, for crying out loud.
Yeah, I still kind of have a problem with this, though, and I don't want to take sides here, but, as you pointed out, he goes into this office, police department, courthouse complex, whatever. He goes in there with good intentions. He obviously wanted to get some transcripts, and he sets up a sort of hidden camera and then goes through this whole scenario. I'm a little suspicious of that. I mean, why would you do it, number one? And I think you pointed that out earlier. But, whatever happens to him after that, I understand that law enforcement is firm on the particular laws everywhere, so maybe the officer didn't handle it the best way he could, but he did use the word please. In the end, he did soften the sting up a little bit, as they say. Right. But you know what? You bring a camera in, you've got it hidden, you're kind of setting me up, and then this becomes something that is out on the airwaves now. Anything that happens to him after that, Mark, it's nothing personal, but I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's why it's an interesting case to follow. There's a lot of dynamics in here to look at. Did he? Why did he? Did he have the camera? Would you have had the camera? Here's the thing. He brought no law. That's the thing. He broke no laws. Excuse me. He didn't break any laws by setting the camera up. Apparently, according to a spokesman up there, the camera was not hidden. It was right there on the table. He did not have to notify anybody it was being filmed. You can hear that he was polite through the confrontation. I hate to say confrontation. He went there to pick information up. He got his information. But now this whole thing is a mess. Here's a man that's charged with a felony, very serious, on a $100,000 bond. He was released after a few days. They had some folks put the bond up for him. So he's back home, but now he's faced with felony charges and a misdemeanor contempt of court charge. So, you have to question the motives on all sides here. Why was he charged with a felony a month after the fact? Why did he go in with the video camera? What's really going on here? Will we ever get the truth? Who knows? But it is a fascinating story for sure.
Yeah, maybe mistakes made on both sides. I'm not going to question that. But, I'm sorry that the incident took place. The fact that he is a writer only kind of makes it a little bit worse. Maybe there are some extreme circumstances involved here, and like I said, we don't know what took place before or after, the reasons why he might have done this, but the whole thing, I kind of think it's kind of a rotten trick, Mark.
Hey, I'm neutral in the whole thing. That's why I wanted to follow it, and we'll continue to follow the situation and see what happens with Joel up there as it winds its way through the courts. You never know what's going to happen, but there's obviously some animosity here between what happened with his wife, the police department, him, the breaking of no laws. All of the dynamics involved here are pretty fascinating. So, we're going to continue to follow it on Armed American Radio. And I would like to take this opportunity, James, to let the viewers know that we mentioned we were going to follow the case of the stalking situation that we talked about last week. We were unable to get a hold of some of the folks on the show in time Sunday, so we were unable to discuss that. But we will be doing that again in the very near future, just as soon as we can get the right individuals. This week on Armed American Radio, we'll be talking about that unbelievable Florida shooting case at the school complex, at the school board in Bay County, Florida, down there. Unbelievable. So we'll be digging into that pretty deep this Sunday.
Yeah, okay, and I'm going to listen to that myself, because you probably saw we ran the video early in the show, and I'm interested in more information on it because I didn't comment because I don't have enough information. So I'll be watching, I'll be listening, and I hope that the rest of you viewers tune in as well. Mark, I understand that we may be scheduled for some screen time. You're going down, you're going to go to the SHOT Show, correct?
With bells on, yes, sir. We'll be in Vegas the week of the 17th through the 22nd, and hopefully be able to bring some live reports from there. We're set up, even if we're not set up in an Armed American Radio booth. We will be bringing you a live report right there from the floor of the SHOT Show. So it'll be a lot of fun, and who knows? We may surprise you with some fun folks that everybody knows there on the floor of the show in Vegas.
Well, we've gotten a lot of emails about the SHOT Show, and I've told people that I'm not personally going to be there, but you will be, and that they should come by and say hello.
Absolutely. Look forward to it. Have them come on by.
Okay. Merry Christmas, Mark.
Merry Christmas, James, and everybody else. Appreciate it very much.
Okay. See you again.
Thank you, sir.